Welcome back. All right, so news video for all you fine people on the internet for Wednesday, November the 9th. Starting off with Evander Kane. So, of course, he was involved in a scary incident where his wrist got run over by Pat Maroon. He came off the ice clearly in great distress. Completely understandable. Arterial bleeds will do that. And it was reported as well that when reaching the trainer's room and all that in the locker room, that just help, help, help was all the people could hear, and I'm sure that was the case. So he released a statement today saying he's okay. He won't play in their next game. He said that in the statement, but we know this. He's going to need wrist surgery. No timetable for his return. And as I said in the review last night, just glad that he's okay. That's the thing. That's the key thing, is that he's okay, and he will come back and play again. So interesting news out of last night's game too in Ottawa, and I saw this before I left to go to the concert, and I was going to throw it in the review and I didn't, so I apologize for that, but I'll throw it in here. Ryan Reynolds gets like a hero's reception in Ottawa. And again, it's not that long ago that there was all the talk about Eugene Melnyk this, Eugene Melnyk that. Of course, his passing has really tamped a lot of that down, and good. That's the way that should work. But it is interesting to think of going from Eugene Melnyk as the owner to Deadpool, and it is odd, right? That is one thing that would be odd. So while he hasn't got the backers yet, and he hasn't figured it all out yet, him being at the game, I don't see that as being any kind of a coincidence. He knows what he's doing. I can't prove there was a documentary crew there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's working on getting a documentary crew. Because when you think about it, okay, so you need money to buy a hockey team. Cool. So you can get that money, but you can also make money selling a documentary. So when I saw the Wrexham series, and I've watched the first 2 episodes of that, I was like, this is a really good idea. He buys the team, but he also sets up a documentary, which then will make him some money, which is a smart move. So yeah, Reynolds is doing everything right now. Bettman didn't say anything negative about him either in the press conference yesterday in Winnipeg, so we'll see how things go. Chris Neil's number 25 is going to be retired by the Ottawa Senators on February 17th. I've seen some people laughing this off and mocking it. Like, you don't just have to retire the number of a player who scored 50 goals a year and 100 points a year. Chris Neil was very popular in Ottawa. It would be like if the Vancouver Canucks come out and said they're going to retire Gino Odjick's number. Nobody would argue against that in Vancouver. Fans elsewhere would look at his numbers and say, well, what could he do? Odjick was a huge emotional leader for the Canucks at points during his time in Vancouver, and Chris Neil was a veteran. He was a leader. He was a huge part of the Senators, and so I understand completely why they would look at retiring his number, and I think it'll be great. St. Louis set a record they're not going to be happy about. That is 8 straight regulation losses for the St. Louis Blues. And, I don't know how far this is going to go before a big change of some sort takes place. And I always mention, I always have to have the caveat in there of a big change is going to require somebody to have some cap space to help them make a big change. And not just St. Louis, but almost anybody who wants to make a big change. But you can tell the frustration's really, bubbling up. And this is a veteran team that expects more out of themselves. And so far, they've been nothing but a disappointment since that 3-game winning streak to start the season. I can't remember the last time that St. Louis was in the bottom row on my power rankings, which is where they are right now. But I'm sure somebody will say, wasn't it 2018, 2019? And I'll kind of grumble and go, well, yes, but this is not the same as that season. This feels worse. It just feels like even that year we were kind of like, well, it's disappointing. They were expected to be better. This just feels awful. So we'll see how far this goes and whether or not St. Louis can pull themselves out of it. So, scary incident last night in the Montreal-Detroit game. Matt Luff was injured. It was a hit from behind by Juraj Slafkovsky. And so Juraj Slafkovsky got kicked out of the game for that. That was in the third period last night. And he has a hearing today. Department of Player Safety has come out and announced that he will have a hearing, which means it is going to be a suspension. So they've already lost Josh Anderson to a suspension. Now they're going to lose Slafkovsky to a suspension, and they're playing Vancouver tonight. And it's too bad because, well, I can't say that. I mean, if he's suspended, it's on him. But it did look like Slafkovsky was starting to figure things out. But gets a little overzealous here. And Coach Lalonde basically said Luff's pretty badly hurt. And so hopefully Luff's not out for very long. Luff's one of those guys, as I always say, that my favorite guys in the NHL are very often those guys like Luff, who's been in the NHL, out of the NHL, the guys that stick with it and keep playing despite not quite reaching that goal of being in the NHL full time and do that year after year. I really respect the grind. So hopefully Luff's not out as long as it sounds like he's going to be. And we'll see how many games Slafkovsky gets. My guess is 2. It feels like Department of Player Safety likes the 2-game suspensions right now. And so we'll see if there's another Montreal Canadian getting a 2-game suspension. As Anderson's going into the second game of his... It's the second game of his suspension tonight, right? It's interesting trying to keep up with this. But yeah, so we'll see how many games Slafkovsky gets. Philadelphia, and it's not really news, but people keep talking about it, and they make a big deal of it, that the Cooperalls being worn in warm-ups by Philadelphia. I find it weird they wear them in warm-ups when they can't wear them during the game. If they're not safe enough to wear for the game, why are they safe enough to wear for warm-ups? I've seen those guys skate around out there. If you fall on your ass and you slam into the boards, which is what they're known for. That's why the Cooperalls aren't allowed to be worn in-game, is because if you fall down, you're kind of on your own. And you get tremendous speed as well. Players loved wearing the Cooperalls when they were legal to wear in the NHL. It was Philadelphia and Hartford that wore them. I'm pretty sure it was just Hartford and Philadelphia that wore them. Which is why it's kind of too bad the Canes didn't do a Whalers throwback this year. If we're going to do the Cooperalls, then yeah, but the Canes didn't play along. But yeah, they were dangerous. And so as much as the players liked wearing them, the NHL pretty quickly figured out these don't work for safety reasons in the NHL. I don't know, maybe you could put sandpaper on the outside of them, something, a little something. Nah, it's not going to work either. I know, tear up the ice and all that, and I don't think it'd stop you. I don't think that'd work. But yeah, so it's interesting they're wearing them in warm-ups, but again, I'm kind of surprised that they're doing that. So I'm guessing they're being auctioned off after, but I don't know if I'd bid on somebody's Cooperalls. But hey, it's the internet. Do what you're going to do. So Calgary news from yesterday, and this was before the game last night, but it's in the news video for today, and that's that Huberdeau's day-to-day with an upper body injury. So Huberdeau has been off to a very slow start with the Calgary Flames, now being injured. And again, it's day-to-day because most injuries start out as day-to-day before they become week-to-week. And so hopefully it's not as long as that sounds like it could be. Calgary, of course, reached 6 games in their losing streak last night. It definitely, and I've mentioned this a lot recently, but it definitely feels like there are certain teams that are emerging as contenders and teams that are kind of falling away, and it feels like Calgary's falling away. Well, somehow Seattle looks like they might be emerging as a contender for at least one of the top 3 spots in the Pacific, and who knows what happens after that. You just need to get to the playoffs, and then once you're in the playoffs, whatever happens from there is very wildly unpredictable. And if Calgary is going to make said playoffs, they can't keep losing at the rate that they are. Sutter's frustrated, the team's frustrated, and I just blame it on the fact they gave Sutter an extension. It's a weird thing with hockey coaches. They get an extension. It's almost the same as when a GM comes out and goes, "Yeah, I believe in this guy. This guy's our coach. We love the guy. We couldn't do without him." And a week later, it's, "Yeah, so we've decided to let him go. It was time." I kind of knew last week, but I didn't want to say it. It's like an ugly breakup, right? Girlfriend will tell you one week everything's fine, and then a week later, "Yeah, so I'm already seeing other people, so you can do that too." Anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.